Thanks, Adam, again, and thanks you all for being here on a beautiful day. So there's been a lot of talk recently about the future of work and the role of colleges in getting young people ready for work. What I'd like to talk a little bit about this morning is the role of work in getting young people ready for college, and the role of work in college in combination with classes in getting young people ready to be democratic citizens and to have fulfilling careers and lives. This idea of what you might call the pedagogical power, turn it down maybe slightly, pedagogical power of work appeals to me in part because of some experiences I've had personally, which I'll talk about in a moment, and also because it feels like an urgent time and a watershed time for higher education, where there's both big challenges, existential challenges, as well as huge opportunities for us in higher ed to sort of reform and update our model and improve our value proposition, not just to our students, but to society. Let's see if I can work this thing here. So when I was 19, I had an internship that changed my life. This is me. I don't think I've tied a tie that well since. And it's with U.S. Senator Gary Hart from Colorado, who became a mentor to me when I worked on his re-election campaign in 1980 to the U.S. Senate, and I had a chance later to work on one of his two presidential campaigns. This internship was the summer after my freshman year. It was a pretty rocky freshman year at University of Vermont. I lived in New York. The internship was in Colorado. I drove out there and kind of beat up Chevy Chevette, arrived mid-June. And the work I had started pretty basic. Day one, my job was to mow the lawn behind the campaign headquarters. And I guess I did that okay. They invited me back for a second day. Day 2, 3, and 4, I had and 5 actually, my job was to count money. So there were about 100 cans filled with nickels and dimes and quarters that had been collected at a political convention. And they said, hey, here's the new kid, here's the intern, let's get him counting the money. So I literally spent 4 days putting it in bunches of 50, rolling it up in the little paper things, crimping the ends, took it to the bank, about $950, the campaign got from it. So that was awesome. I then graduated to ghostwriting letters to the editor. I had a chance to work on a position paper on Senator Hart's views on small businesses. By the middle of the summer, I was organizing rock concerts with Linda Ronstadt and Jimmy Buffett. They were fundraisers for the campaign. That was super cool. I was 19. They were really big musicians back then for younger people in the audience. I loved it. I decided to stay. I said I can't leave and go back for the fall semester. I'm going to stay through election day. So I got more responsibilities throughout the fall. I had a chance to organize college students across the state. I worked with some of the best organizers in Colorado, some of the best organizers in the country, and the whole experience for me was just awesome. I built confidence, I built experiences, I built knowledge, I built a network, I built a sense of passion, and I got a sense of I'm a good organizer. I can do this work. When I went back to University of Vermont, beautiful UVM in Burlington, Vermont, in January for the second semester of my sophomore year, I was a totally different student. I'd been a really mediocre, is probably charitable, student my freshman year. And I came back, I took harder classes, I worked harder in those classes, I had a lot more to contribute because of what I'd learned on the campaign trail through this work experience. I signed up to work on the newspaper, I got other internships, I became a leader on campus, and I ended up having 2 majors and getting a ton out of my college years. But as I look back today on those 4 years of my life, and I think about what I learned in the 32 classes that I took at University of Vermont, compare it to what I learned in actually 2 internships with Gary Hart, I'd say I learned twice as much, at least, through those 2 internships than all 32 classes put together. The other thing that I wasn't really aware of at the time, but that I'm very aware of now, is that the experience I had was very much a 1% experience. I was not paid in this internship. My parents were subsidizing me. I got the job because my dad knew Gary Hart. It was an incredibly privileged opportunity that really prepared me for a career in social change, but that was something that, frankly, most of my classmates didn't have access to. So really, as we think about this kind of work experience in college that changed my life and that has changed other people's lives, one of the questions is how generalizable is that? How can we make that common and not something that's just a few people who get access to it? So to think about the generalizability of this, it helps to sort of take a step back and look at some trends and some challenges in higher education, which I want to do for a moment. So we know that actually a lot more people are going to college. Since World War II, there's been a 10x increase in enrollment in institutions of higher education. We now have 20 million people enrolled in colleges, 10 million of them full-time students in four-year colleges. It's a $700 billion industry in higher education. We also know that it costs a lot. And we know that student loan debt is now 1.5 trillion. All those zeros adds up to 1.5 trillion, and that students and recent graduates are not starting small businesses at the rates they have in the past. They're not buying homes, in part because of that debilitating debt. Maybe most concerning of all, we know that half of the young people who kind of do the right thing, play by the rules, and finish a four-year degree aren't getting a job, a career track job, over that first 5-year period after college. They may be working part-time, they may be working a job that doesn't require a college degree. Only half are entering career track jobs. And part of that's for structural reasons, structural challenges in the economy, but part of it is because of a massive skills mismatch between what employers are looking for and frankly what our society needs of democratic citizens and what college students have on average as they come out of a four-year degree, particularly in areas like critical thinking, oral communications, teamwork and collaboration, other so-called 21st century skills. So this is a big challenge, and I think all of us in the higher education world or places who partner with higher education need to be thinking about how can we do better, how can we do a lot better. And I think a big part of the answer is to really look at the pedagogical power of work and to look at how can we integrate work-based learning much more deeply into the college experience and do it for credit. When it's extracurricular, when we're counting on gap years or summer experiences to provide these work experiences, it's the privileged kids like me who get access to it. And what we need to do is find a way to embed it in the fabric of a four-year degree. So it's not just anecdote that tells me that work-based learning works. There's a growing body of research from folks in higher education about the power of high-impact learning and work-based learning in particular. One of the really important studies is done by Gallup with Purdue University based on 30,000 interviews of college graduates in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, asking them to kind of look back on their college years and their college experiences and track what were the experiences then that led to later experiences in their lives and in their work world. And it turns out that for folks who had an internship or a job in college that related to what they were studying, they're 2 times more likely to be engaged in work, to be happy in work later in their careers. Same thing with folks who had a mentor when in college, often through that internship, makes them 2 times more likely to be engaged and happy at work. The Pew Survey Company did a survey very recently of very recent college graduates, just like 6 months post-college, and said, what do you wish you could, if you had a do-over, what do you wish you could have done differently? And some people said, well, you know, now that I'm out in the work world, I wish I'd studied harder and had a better GPA. Some people said, I wish I had a different major. But what most people said, the number one response was, I wish I'd had more jobs, more internships when I was in college. That would have positioned me for success in the world of work and in that transition. So how are we doing? If that's so important, how are we doing in terms of getting young people to have these work experiences before and in college? And the answer is not very well. This is just data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We've gone in the last generation from half of young people in their later high school years and early college years working, including summer jobs and part-time jobs, to about 1/3 today. I've seen data among just college students that says we've gone from 2/3 to 1/3 working, including summer jobs and part-time jobs during their college years. And one of the more depressing things is that the drop-off has been most significant among students of color and low-income students. So the students who are starting ahead, students like me, are more likely to get these transformative work experiences in the summer and otherwise. Students who need them the most to kind of level the playing field are least likely to get them in the current economy. So how do we change that? Because a lot of these jobs aren't coming back. How do we find a way to build these work-based experiences into the college experience? And I think the answer is that we need to make work-based learning a cornerstone of the four-year college experience. We need to look at models such as, what about if colleges teamed up with the AmeriCorps and National Service World and developed a model of not 1+4, but 1+3? So a year of community service with deep reflection and real-world learning was followed by 2 or 3 years of classroom learning, and that was a four-year degree. What about if in co-op universities like Northeastern University, instead of the two co-ops representing a fifth year on top of 4 years of academics, the co-ops were woven into a four-year experience? What about if different degree programs in social work or social innovation said, hey, let's come up with a model where there's 30 credits of courses in your major, there's 30 credits of courses in other topic areas, and there's 60 credits in field-based experiences with rigorous real-world projects that together add up to 120 credits and add up to a degree. So, those are a bunch of ideas I'd love to see flower and blossom in the years ahead. My own interest in this is piqued by my work over the last 4 years with 13 different colleges and universities, including University of New Hampshire, represented over here in the back of the room, to develop the Semester in the City model, which is a one semester, 15, 16-week immersive learning experience for 16 academic credits based in Boston. So students from these public and private colleges and universities come, much like a study abroad experience, except it's study away in Boston. They get placed in an internship at a homeless shelter, at a community development corporation, with a B corporation, a social mission business, a nonprofit, or an innovative government agency. And they do 400 hours of real world work with a mentor, not copying and getting coffee, but counting coins. Maybe they do a little bit of that, but mostly they're doing really meaningful work. And they're reflecting on it. We have classes on Wednesday night, really go deep on how do we get the students thinking about theories of change and sort of systemic change in the social sector in areas that they're passionate about. And on Fridays, we built a whole curriculum around change making and problem solving, built around a lot of the skills that employers are looking for, that our society needs, that Ashoka, you and others have identified. It's early. We've been doing this for less than 3 years, but the early results are really promising. Students are telling us that, just as I did, they're having a life-changing experience when they come for that 15 weeks to Boston. They're reporting that they're gaining in skills, not just sort of networking skills, but persuasive communication skills, system thinking skills, design thinking skills. They're gaining, not just 1, but 2, 3, 4 semesters worth of learning in that one kind of highly impactful semester. So that's our vision. We want to really grow that. And I want to kind of just close with a story about Sam Marquis, who's one of the first 150 students who've done our program. Jill Howard in the glasses there in the 5th rows and other ones. You should talk with Jill afterwards. But they've had this incredible experience over the last couple of years in Boston. Sam grew up in a small town in New Hampshire, didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. First generation college student's been working multiple jobs since he was 14 years old. When he was 18, he applied to 4 colleges, private and public, some pretty great colleges in New England, got into every one of them. Went to his father, said, can you co-sign my loan? He couldn't because he was already co-signing an older sibling's loan. So he had to say no to all 4 of those colleges. He enrolled the next year in a community college, worked his way through, working 50 hours a week at a coffee shop. Eventually was able to transfer to University of New Hampshire, worked his way through University of New Hampshire. So he knew work. He knew work in restaurants and coffee shops, etc. But as he came to the spring of his junior year, last spring, he said, I don't want my career to be in a coffee shop or a restaurant. I want to help people. I want to build a real career. I want to build those skills. He started looking into internships, and he was striking out. He didn't have a network. He wasn't finding either a summer internship or a summer job that connected to career ideas. He heard about Semester in the City. He applied. He said, this is what I need. So he was with us this fall. And he arrived August 30th. He was placed with the Lena Park Community Development Corporation, operates in Dorchester, Massachusetts, a low-income neighborhood of Massachusetts. He got to work with their kids in an after-school program, but mostly he got to learn the sort of art and science of fundraising, because that was his job. And he worked with Amy Malkens, his mentor. He learned Salesforce, he learned grant writing, he organized a $27,000 fundraising event by himself. He had a life-changing experience. And what I want to close with is that this needs to be for a lot more than Eric. This needs to be for a lot more than Sam. This needs to become the new normal. Work-based learning works. It's not a panacea, but it works. And we need to find a way that as colleges look to reinvent themselves in the 21st century, they embed high-quality, rigorous work-based learning into the full fabric of the college experience.